Welcome, everybody, to the Retail Corner podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how to make better decisions with marketing. And in order to do that, we're going to be talking to none other than Justin Chen, who is the co founder of Pickfu. How are you doing today, Justin?
Good. Thanks for having me, Carlos.
No, it's a pleasure. So tell us a little bit more about you. I know you're a software engineer, project manager, right? So very
Yeah.
technical, and you've decided to become an entrepreneur. I think along your career or your lifespan, right?
hmm
So how has that been that journey been for you?
Yeah. So both my co-founder and I are engineers by education, and we wanted to run something on our own. So years ago, we quit our corporate jobs, and then started a different business. It was a restaurant menu aggregator, actually. So it's like totally different. But we were working on a redesign for that business, and
Mm-hmm.
we needed consumer feedback on it because John and I, my partner, couldn't decide on which design to go with. So we wanted to put it out to a bunch of strangers. We couldn't find a solution for it, so we decided to build it as a side project, and that's kind of where Pickfu started. And yeah, we kind of left it there for a while as a side project, and then it kind of started getting legs of its own. And soon enough, it was overtaking our previous business, and we decided that we needed to come over and grow the whole team and evolve the product.
Wow, that's crazy. But I think it happens so many times like that, right? A lot of
Yeah,
times you have a goal or you have a vision and you have gold in your hand somewhere else, right?
yeah,
But you don't really think anything of it. But I think it hits on a great point, right? For all entrepreneurs out there, it's not what necessarily in business. It's not always what you have in your mind as your dream, but
yeah.
rather what the consumer tells you that they want,
Exactly. Yeah, and
right?
that was actually one of the things that drove us to want to continue with Pickfu is that the customer feedback we were getting was just so positive around, oh, you helped me so much with this important decision in my life, and it really changed the trajectory. And so like those kinds of things, any entrepreneur, any business owner loves hearing. And so of course we wanted to spend more time hearing that kind of feedback.
Of course, yeah, because the reward is beyond the money, right?
Yes,
It's a
exactly.
personal, emotional,
Yeah.
psychological satisfaction. Yeah, no, I hear you completely. So tell me a little bit for everybody out there. What is Pickfu? What do you guys do? What service do you offer? How can people engage it?
Yeah, so it's basically enterprise grade market research made available for everyone. So you could think of it as a digital focus group where you ask a single question and you put up 1 to 8 different creative assets. So it could be something like which product would you buy, and you put up 2 product packaging designs. And what we're going to do is we're going to reach out to our panel of people. We're going to pay them to respond very quickly, and so they're going to choose which one they like, and they're going to give you written explanations why and demographic information. And so this turns into a very easy way for you to gather consumer feedback about, product ideas, idea validation, branding, company names, packaging, of course, all the way down to marketing creatives like ads, all that kind of stuff. So kind of anything that you want to hypothetically test out, but you don't want to, test it live, or maybe there's a huge money investment. And so you want to make sure that you've got some data.
Nice, nice. So pretty much you guys are bringing like focus groups and marketing analysis of target audience, right? That depending on what your
Exactly.
product is. And I'm assuming when you as a consumer engage with Pickfu, right? You have the ability to segregate on the groups that you think is your target audience as you're trying to experiment on a new product or maybe a new idea, as you mentioned. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So by default, it'll default to first come, first serve, but you could target by demographics, so age, gender, income, or some of the behavioral aspects. So maybe they own a cat, or they drink tea, or maybe they use beauty products. So a lot of these other consumer type attributes we're able to target by. We're in the U.S., Canada, UK, Australia, and Germany. And so,
Wow.
even if you're doing market validation to sell in, Amazon Germany or something like that, you can do that as well.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And now this will work for either e-commerce, right? Or if it's brick and mortar, right? Because ultimately you're
Exactly.
just giving a focus group and saying this is
Yeah,
the
it doesn't
response we're
matter.
getting.
Yeah.
Nice, 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 nice. And so, how can if you can explain the process of incorporating consumer feedback, just in general, right? Because I think a lot of times, again, how we started the
Mhm.
conversation, people get so focused on, hey, this is my goal or this is my dream
Yeah.
business, and they rarely listen to other people's opinions, especially the consumer opinion, which is
Yeah.
right gold, the most important, right? The only one that really matters. Uh, So how should people be incorporating all this information and really listening to it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that can start as early as the ideation phase, and maybe you've got a particular product in mind or some kind of value proposition, and you just want to reach out and see if it's resonating with a particular audience. So, perhaps you're selling something to dog owners, and you want to ask them, do you ever have problems with this situation, and would you buy this product? And you could just do this kind of open-ended test, and people will just write open-ended feedback like, oh, no, here's how I handle it, or yeah, that sounds really interesting, and just kind of give you the feedback that you would get if you were asking them in person or asking them at a coffee shop. So that's kind of like the earliest way you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a product concept, but maybe the packaging, you could put up that image as well and say like, hey, what do you think about this product, and maybe how much would you pay for it, and just to give you some sense of, okay, like, what's the ballpark that I could potentially go out at? Like, what's the perception based off how it's designed? The funny thing is, a lot of people come to us because they know about us through about main image testing, so like their online listings, and
Mm-hmm.
um, which is fine. It's a great use case for it. But what ends up happening is you read through the written responses, and people will choose. They'll actually make more comments about the branding or the packaging of the product itself, and say like, oh, well, I chose this one because, like, I don't like the other one's branding. And that's really unfortunate, because if they had gotten feedback much earlier in the process, then they wouldn't have these issues when they're trying to change their marketing creatives, right? Like, by that point, you want to make sure everything's rock solid.
Oh yeah, it can become extremely expensive
Yeah,
to make
yeah,
changes at that
yeah,
point, right? I
exactly.
mean, you could literally can put a business under. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
And so, but obviously, it works for when you're starting the idea, when you're starting the product, the
yeah,
design. But what about when, hey, maybe I already have my business going, right?
yep.
And I don't know if I want to pivot to different places. How can
Hmm.
I leverage Pickfu in order to do that, where I'm not going to get traumatized with, oh my god, I need to change all the greens to blues or something like that, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're not in a position to change the product or the packaging, um, marketing creatives are probably like the next step that you could probably improve through Pickfu. So, whether that's your online listings, or maybe if it's even in store, shelving displays. There's certain things might, depending on what kind of product you're selling. There's a lot of different things that you could test, because improving click-through rates, or just like drawing people's attention to your product when they're on the shelf, maybe they're displayed a different way or whatever it is,
Mm,
can make a big impact. Pricing is another thing that you could adjust. So maybe you want to explore bundles or like add-ins to your product, and that's something that we see a lot of people testing. If this is $10, would you buy this two of them for 15, or maybe two plus a guidebook or whatever it is for $30, right? So you can test a lot of different ways to increase your actual order value.
okay, okay, perfect. And we were talking about, like, optimizing product listings, right? And I know
Hmm.
there's a lot of platforms that most entrepreneurs use today, right? Obviously, Amazon, Walmart, eBay,
Yeah.
so forth and so on. But so, can you tell me, with your expertise, like, what are some of the strategies that you employ, like top to bottom, in order to optimize, right? Because I know that from the moment you put a title on that product, the description, keywords, etc., it all impacts how the consumer has that accessibility to that product.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all start if you're selling on a marketplace like any of those that you started stated. I think the first thing is to think about your main image. You got to get the click first of all onto your listing, so making sure that your main image stands out from all of your competitors. And so there's a lot of interesting best practices around that, and a lot of them include laying out your product with the packaging, especially if you spend a lot of time on packaging, because I think it gives the consumer a better sense of what they're getting, and if you've spent time on good packaging, it actually makes it look like a more premium product. So spending some time and creating a main image that actually lays out the product in an angle that makes it very legible and readable, and then also uses the packaging as a way to create some depth, I think is a best practice. And then comparing those images that you create against your competition to make sure that it stands out and it's appealing, is important. Yeah, getting to the listing, there's a lot of best practices around, um, first prioritizing the selling points that you're marketing. I think is a really important thing. I think a lot of entrepreneurs assume that there are certain selling points to their product that they're like, oh, I'm going to emphasize these 5 things, but is that even what people care about? And so one of the things that we have
Mm,
people do on Pickfu is actually, hey, if you're a dog owner and you're going to buy a dog bed, like what are the top things that are important to you, and maybe they'll talk about like washability or the material, whatever it is. But once you get all this feedback, now you kind of know how to prioritize the benefits, not only in your copy, but also like in any lifestyle images or secondary images that you want to create. Those should also emphasize those points, right? Like, oh, it is washable. I really want to drive this home. There's a bullet point. There's an image. My description has an even bigger image, or maybe there's a video about it, right? So like, you really want to make sure that those points are driven home.
absolutely, absolutely. And when we're talking about marketplace, right? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
this is a challenge for everybody, right? Yes, you get on the marketplace, but there's millions and millions and millions of
Yeah.
options, right? So how do you leverage this marketing information? How do you leverage how to really use like the consumer insights, right? In order not just to target your audience, but to really come out there in those marketplaces.
I think one of the ways that we suggest is actually trying to use the your target consumer's language, both in your listing and then also by virtue like kind of targeting those search keywords, right? So, I think people describe things and search for things in a very different way, and even though you may call it a dog bed or something, maybe people call it like a puppy like pad or napping spot or whatever it is, right? There's all kinds of weird ways that they
Hmm.
might type into the search engine. And so you kind of want to make sure that those kinds of terminology are maybe used on your listing so that you start ranking for a lot of different ways that your consumers are searching for. So that's one tip there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you hit it on the nail, right? Like a lot of times we believe that the keywords are very specific words that, right?
Yeah.
Dog is dog, right? And
Yeah.
and it really it really is, and you'll be surprised how many different keywords that almost have nothing to do with
Yeah.
what you're looking for have the highest rate, right? And the highest
Hmm.
frequency of usage. Yeah, absolutely. And so when we talk about your experience and you've managed to increase click-through rates, right? How
Yeah.
much have you guys been able to increase click-through rates for your clients?
Yeah. So one example, obviously every customer is different, but one example we had was a company called Yes Bar, and they're kind of like a protein bar that you can buy in any retail shop. And
Hmm.
so they were trying to improve their Amazon click through rates, and so they created a few different variations of their main image, and they tested it with Pickfu. Um, the poll that they ran cost $65, like pretty affordable, but it gave them the confidence to know which one was going to perform better. And so once they swapped out that new image, they got an immediate 12% click through rate increase on their click through rate. And so basically, it,
Wow.
it netted a return immediately because those immediately led to higher conversion rate as well. And so it just goes to show that the smallest change on your main image could really make a difference, um, even for people who are maybe searching for your branded term. But you always need to assume that they're not searching for your branded term; they're searching for protein bar or something like that, right? So you really need to make sure that main image sticks out, increase your click through rate.
Nice. And so when clients or people that are interested, right, in getting this service, is it on a monthly basis? Is it per project? Is it per inquiry? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's all self service. There's no subscription needed ever. So it's pay as you go. So
Hmm.
each one of our surveys starts at $1 per response. So if you're running a survey and you want 15 people, it'll be $15 up to 500 people. It'll increase a little bit with more specific targeting, or maybe you're testing 8 different product logos versus like 2. That'll cost a little bit more as well. I would say the average cost is probably like $70 or so for the average retail customer. Um, so that's we always want to make sure that it fits our customers' testing cadence, right? And I know that some people kind of go through phases where they're doing development or optimization of things, and then they're working months on, logistics and operations and fulfillment. They're not really thinking about this stuff, so that's why we didn't want to have a subscription that you had to have every single month.
Nice, nice. Yeah, so somebody can do a survey, go back, continue developing,
Exactly.
and then come back once they have some
Yep.
other adjustments that they've made. Okay,
Yep.
yeah, that's great because then it makes it very affordable, And
Yeah,
then B, it makes it very convenient for your operations, right? As you're
exactly.
growing or you're trying to pivot in different stages. That's awesome. And have you guys conducted like any experiments that led to higher conversion rates with some of your clients or internally? Have you done anything like outside of the ordinary that you might recommend for people? Like, hey, we did this one thing and it became this crazy return, you know?
um, Nothing off the top of my head. I think it's always hard to generalize, the best practices, because I think even online, like, it differs by different product categories. Like the things that we see work in nutritional supplements may not work in kitchen goods or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the best practice that we just recommend is iteratively testing. Most importantly, testing against your competition. I think most people come to us thinking it's great to test the design variations we're creating, but the more important test is actually your thing against your competition, because ultimately that's what's going to matter in the marketplace. And too many customers come to us and they spend a lot of effort iterating on this perfect design that they have by itself, but it pales in comparison to all the competition, and then they're upset that they're not winning. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
didn't actually test it against your competition, so how are you supposed to know, that it's actually
Yeah, how did you have a threshold, right? Or is
yeah,
it a compare point of comparison? Absolutely, absolutely. And so when we step away from marketplaces, right? I think a lot of people they start their e-commerce, right?
yep,
And they start their business on e-commerce. But again, right? There's millions and millions of different outlets and
yes,
millions of websites. How do you recommend for people to be able to bring people to that website, right? Because one thing is how do you excel on the marketplace, and I think another thing very different is great, you created your own website and you have a couple products in there
yeah.
or services. How do you excel on making awareness of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a difficult challenge. I think a lot of people who start on marketplaces then bring it to their own website. I know they try to drive some of those customers back to their own site for repeat sales. So, those are like product inserts and things like that, as a using the marketplace as a channel for customer acquisition. Otherwise, I think for most direct to consumer brands, it seems like ads and social media seems to be a popular approach. Building an email list, obviously, is one approach, or putting content out. As we're doing with the podcast here, is another way that you could drive customers in. Um, and affiliates and influencers is another approach as well. Getting your product into the hands of the people who are influencing buying decisions is probably the most effective way nowadays.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. And I think right now the outlet that's being used the most for it is TikTok. No, I think
Yeah,
right now because there's so many filters and so many algorithms and all
yeah,
on the other platforms, right? That now you're even if you have a million followers, only 10% is really looking at
yeah.
your information. Yeah. So, one last question I want to ask you, and I ask this of everybody. If you had one piece of advice for all the entrepreneurs out there that are listening, as they're developing their business, they're growing their business, or maybe they're starting their business,
Hmm.
what would be that one piece of advice based on your experience on how you guys arrived to where you're at Pickfu, and also from what you see from your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just comes back to talking to your customer, your target customer, and understanding their needs. And even as a software company, that's what we do every day. We're always talking to our customers, both the good ones and the unhappy ones, trying to understand where we can improve. And obviously, you can't satisfy everyone, but those are all important data points to understand how they're making their buying decisions and how they're retaining or not retaining. And so I definitely recommend every person selling products as well to do the same. So whether it's using a platform like Pickfu, or finding some kind of Facebook group of dog owners or moms and talking to them, and then even talking to your past customers and understanding, like, obviously there's reviews, but if you can actually have a conversation with them, I think it's even more powerful to understand how things fit into their lives, and what improvements you can make. So I think these conversations are invaluable that you could have with your customer. So that's my piece of advice.
No, that's a great piece of advice. And I think there are conversations that are never ending, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of how big your business gets, you should always, right, parlay with your consumer, right? Because
Yes.
they could be your biggest ally or they could be your biggest
Yeah.
enemy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
for
Awesome.
sure.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you for sharing all your insights. And for everybody out there listening, if you guys want to use Pickfu and try to make decisions before rather than after, right? So be proactive on the
Hmm.
usage of your resources, not just from actual labor resources, but also from monetary resources. I think this is a great product that will allow you guys to leverage information from potential consumers, from your real target audience, and allow you guys to make the best decisions possible.
Yeah.
So, Justin, thank you guys for creating this and for developing this and sharing this with the world. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Carlos.
A pleasure.
If you would like to be featured on our podcast, please email us at podcast@retailcorner.live or visit our website, retailcorner.live. Looking forward to having you as our guest on our podcast, and thank you so much for listening.